Station, this is Houston. Are you ready for the event?
Houston, this is a space station. Ready for the event.
Discovery Channel, this is Mission Control Houston. Please call station for a voice check.
Station, this is Discovery Channel. How do you hear me?
Discovery Channel, hello, loud and clear. Well, great to be with you today, Chris.
Thank you very much. Is this Commander Cassidy?
It certainly is, on board the International Space Station.
Sir, it is a pleasure to talk to you. I understand this is probably routine for you, but I have to say this is an amazing experience for me to be able to be communicating with you on the International Space Station by telephone. Really, really fantastic. Thank you so much for joining us. Let me start by asking you how it's like for you in space. What adjustments do you make, and what do you miss most about being home?
Well, it's always fun to be here. You know, as astronauts, we're preparing and training for space missions our whole career. And I've been an astronaut for 15 years, I guess, a little over that. And then this is only my third time in space. So it's not every day that we're here. So we really cherish every minute that we're here. The days are busy. The biggest adjustment, to answer your question directly, is we are following a timeline all day long, and just paying attention to that timeline and being very specific with all the details is different than how you normally live your workday when you're on Earth. On Earth, you generally know the big blocks that you're doing, but nobody's telling you exactly how to do every single activity, and we need to be that particular here on the space station. So that's the biggest adjustment. And what do I miss most about Earth? I think it's the smells, wonderful smells that you have on Earth that we just kind of take for granted, coming out of the kitchen or of the ocean, the fresh grass. Those kind of things are things that I miss quite often.
That's very well said, Commander. I really appreciate that, and it's something that we do take for granted down here, and something I think you probably look forward to getting back to. Now, you're going to be getting some new roommates in a few days. Are you ready to receive them on the International Space Station?
Well, emotionally, I'm very ready. I'm excited. I can't wait to see them. On an actual technical basis, I still have a few more things to do. I want to have a welcoming reception for them. And if you're coming to somebody's house, it's nice if the bed is made. It's nice if there's some food stocked in the pantry. And it's nice if their sheets are clean. So I have to do the analogous things here: tidy up their quarters, find their clothes and put them there, organize things a little bit, because I want them to feel welcome and just be ready to roll right in. Launch day is a very tiring day for no matter what vehicle you're launching on. You have a lot of emotion. The launch is kind of generally in the latter part of your day, and then you finally get here, and there'll be some media, a lot of media, and so they'll have gone through a lot of emotion up and downs, and just a long work day. So they'll be ready to relax and have a cup of tea with me and unwind for the night.
That just made me smile, Commander, thinking about you making the beds for the astronauts who will be arriving. That's great. A commander's work is never done, I guess.
It certainly isn't. In fact, when I find myself with idle time, I know that there's something else I should be doing.
Well, being the commander on the International Space Station, I assume you're going to have a list of tasks for Bob and Doug. What will be the first thing you have them do when they arrive?
So, good question. I am the commander of the space station, but I'm not the commander of the plan. The commander of the plan is a team of people on the ground in Houston in conjunction with our international colleagues, and they come together every day in sort of leading up a few days out, but each day formalize the plan and figure out the priorities. And so the three of us together will really be conquering that plan each day, given whatever the priorities are. If there are some decisions that we need to weigh in as a crew, that's when I'll come in as the commander and say, I think we ought to lean towards this way. But as a whole, it's the three of us working hard together to get the plan done that the ground specialists send up. But to answer a question, what will be the very first thing that we have to do? right off the bat, we've got to make sure that there's good mechanical leaks, so that even though when the world sees the docking happen, there's still a few hours of technical work before they'll come through the hatch. Then they'll come through the hatch. We'll have some ceremonial activities, public events, and then the cameras will go off, and that's where I'll need to bring them around to the space station, show them the safety equipment, show them where they'll sleep, show them where to go to the bathroom, because they'll need to do that pretty soon. And then just make sure they understand if there's, by chance, some weird emergency in the middle of the night on that first night, they know what to grab and where to go. And so those will be the first actions we do on day one.
You mentioned the docking procedure, Commander, and let's talk a little bit about that. The Crew Dragon is, of course, the latest and greatest in technology. The Demo 1 launch docking went flawlessly. How different is this from previous capsule dockings, such as the Soyuz that you were a part of, the Russian capsule?
Well, there's a lot going on in terms of physics on any rendezvous and docking process. Think about two massive hunks of metal. Fortunately for us, where ours is a little more massive. No, just joking, Bob and Doug. But in all seriousness, these two hunks of metal are going to kind of come together in a very controlled collision, if you will, although we monitor all the parameters very closely. And the Crew Dragon has the top state-of-the-art technology, but all rendezvous are managed with multiple redundant systems. So in terms of our viewpoint on the space station, we don't think anything more than a typical rendezvous. There's always risk that something could go wrong, and there's always risk that we have to pay attention to command the vehicle to retreat if it's not behaving the way we think it is. And we're ready to do that. Of course, Bob and Doug are right there at the controls, so they're primed for anything that goes wrong.
Commander Cassidy, this is truly an historic mission. For the first time in nearly a decade, American astronauts are returning to space on an American rocket. What does that mean for you personally?
Well, it's a great deal of pride for our agency, really, when it comes down to it. It's tough to fly people in space. It's tough to do it safely. It's tough to do it reliably, and it's taken a decade of work to pull all of that together. And this represents so much hard work by so many people around our country, both government and non-government workers. And it just, to me, represents the pride that we should all feel on pulling together a really complex job and getting it to the point where it's a reality. This flight, keep in mind, is a test flight. There was an uncrewed test flight. This is a crewed test flight. And then soon we'll get into regular rotations with the Crew Dragon. And that's going to be really exciting for us as well. This is step one. And for me, it's just all about pride for our country and our great agency of NASA.
Commander Cassidy, do you have any words of encouragement for Bob and Doug before they launch up to the International Space Station?
Yeah, I want to know what food they want waiting, and don't drink too much water in crew quarters before you get on the bus, and just good luck. The whole nation's counting on you. Don't screw it up.
Commander Cassidy, I cannot thank you enough for taking some time to speak with me. It is truly an honor, sir. It is my privilege to have this conversation with you. I know you've got important work to do, so I'm going to let you go. But again, on behalf of everyone down here on Earth, please stay safe, and thank you very, very much.
Thank you very much, Chris, and the Discovery Channel. We appreciate you being with us today.
Station, this is Houston ACR. That concludes the Discovery Channel portion of the event. Please stand by for a voice check from CBS.
Station, this is CBS. Can you hear me?
Hi, CBS. Loud and clear. This is Chris.
Hello, Chris. Commander Cassidy. Thank you for being with us for a few minutes here. Do I just launch into it? Oh, no, we need a clap first. Can you please start by clapping your hands once near the microphone? It'll help us sync our cameras.
Okay, here you go. Clap.
And then what?
And then do the hello as if we're coming to the second.
All right. All right, Commander Chris Cassidy, thank you very much for giving us a few minutes of your time. I know our time is short, so I'm going to get right into it. We're on the brink of a major milestone in spaceflight. In the history of spaceflight up until right now, only countries have put a capsule into orbit and then brought it back. And now we could have a company do it, SpaceX, with two of your colleagues, two American astronauts on board. How big of a deal is this mission?
Oh, it's a gigantic deal. I mean, when we retired the shuttle for very sound reasons when that decision was made with aims to move towards the future, and now the future is here. And how exciting is it? We're putting people into a rocket. My friends, my soon-to-be crewmates, are going to ride on a vehicle from the crew quarters, a Tesla vehicle out to the pad. They're going to climb into the SpaceX rocket and launch off the pad and get here with all eyes on America, a lot of eyes around the world watching them, because it means so much for the very reasons you just said. It's the stepping point of the next phase of space exploration.
One of the questions when NASA teamed up with commercial companies to try to do something like this was, how will the culture of safety at NASA match up with the corporate ambition of a company like SpaceX? So spaceflight, always risky. Rockets are involved, always risky. How confident are you that as your friends get into that capsule, they're going to arrive there safely?
Oh, I'm very confident. I mean, there's smart engineers at NASA, there's smart engineers at SpaceX, all with motivation to do the same thing, and that's fly missions effectively and safely. Nobody's waking up in the morning trying to figure out how to not do that. And so it gives me great peace of mind to know that there's laser focus on mission accomplishment with a safety aspect to that. I think it's a really cool representation to bring together those two cultures, and I think it's been healthy for both the commercial guys who faster and cheaper, and NASA with a more decades based of safety culture. I think it's been healthy for the growth of both organizations.
And certainly inspiring as Americans are able to see Americans launch from U.S. soil for the first time in nearly a decade. But this is a really interesting moment for this mission. The coronavirus, as you float there above, is ravaging the country below. What kind of precautions were taken on your journey, and what's being taken to make sure that the crew coming to you now are completely COVID-free?
Yeah, so the timing was a little different. When our crew went into quarantine, it was really just on the baby infancy of the pandemic, and we started quarantine about 2.5 weeks prior to when we would have entered quarantine. So we were isolated in the remote corner of the base in Star City outside of Moscow for a good part of a month, and never really interacted outside of that. And then we left and came to the space station. So we're sort of at arm's length from the pandemic the whole time. A little bit different situation for Bob and Doug. They've been around. They've been in the United States for this whole time. They, of course, have been taking precautions with their training. That goes with how they get to the airport. NASA planes, I'm not exactly sure, but not commercial airliners flying back and forth to Hawthorne, California, where they had their final training. And then, of course, they've been tested. I don't know. You'd have to ask them the exact number of times, but they've been tested and will be tested again with the standard coronavirus test prior to getting here. I was joking around with my colleagues, my crewmates last night, and said, hey, maybe we should have them come in through the hatch and make a hard left, and we'll isolate them here in the corner for a couple weeks before we'll treat them to a meal. I don't think we'll be that hardcore. We'll put that onus on the medical team down in Florida.
Yeah, no, and I think in a little bit of a change where you are maybe the safest place in the universe. I mean, talk about social distancing, all those many thousands of miles up. I was hoping you could give us some perspective on what it's been like to be up there, knowing that so much sorrow is going on below with the pandemic. Tens of thousands of people in the U.S. alone dying in the weeks that you've been on this mission. Just what's it like with the wonder of what you're doing and the tragedy of what's going on below?
Yeah, you know, it's a thrill to be here, but just like you said, it puts a little bit of a damper on it, knowing exactly the trials and tribulations that are happening on the Earth. We have the ability, we can't watch any live TV that we want, but the ground has the ability to send us up a channel periodically or record some things. And I have watched news segments, and you see those numbers that I think everybody's watching. And it dawned on me a week ago that every single one of those numbers is a story. It's a family. It's a life, and that really sunk into me. Like, wow, there's a family story of tragedy or happiness if they recover with every one of those numbers that we're watching, and that was impactful to me, particularly as I was looking out the window thinking about it. It's been quite interesting to be here during this pandemic. Our day-to-day life isn't changing on board the space station. We're doing our job, and we're getting our things done, and we're conducting the science and research with the scientists on the ground help. But we're talking on the phone and sending emails with our friends and family who are living it just like you are.
Yeah, Commander Cassidy, I want to sneak in 2 more questions because I know we're running out of time. The first goes to the purpose of space exploration. Elon Musk, the founder of SpaceX, has said that he hopes that we as a species, humans, will become multi-planetary. We'll be able to get off of this planet. The pandemic certainly puts that in perspective, and I'm curious, do you share that goal or that hope? Do you hope that humanity may throw off the bonds of Earth itself?
Oh, absolutely. And I think it's definitely going to happen. It's just a matter of what the time scale is. Is it going to be in my time as an astronaut? Probably not. My children's age, when they become professional astronauts, maybe it's in 100 years, but it's just been a little over 100 years since the Wright brothers flew. And think of where we are now, me talking to you from the space station. So that's quite incredible. And I'll end that thought with, when I first became an astronaut in 2004, John Young, a famous astronaut, was still in the office, and I remember him saying, "Single planet species don't survive." So that has stuck with me all these years, and I agree with John Young.
I wanted to go back to a question I asked earlier and just go with a shorter form. Are you worried about coronavirus as these additional astronauts arrive?
Well, certainly we're worried about it. We have confidence that the testing and the program and the regime that the medical folks are putting Bob and Doug through, and the protections that they have will mitigate that as low of a probability as we can. But it would really be something difficult if one of us on board the crew had the virus. It would be, there's no way to isolate each other, so you run a large chance of all 6 of us or all 5 of us getting it. So it's very, very critical that we keep it at 250 miles below us.
And then the last question, as we come up on this historic milestone, 2 Americans coming off of a capsule that lifted off from U.S. soil, first time in nearly a decade. I understand you have an American flag there left by the last Americans who came from U.S. soil. Where is it? What's the plan for passing that flag on?
Good question, and I'm negligent. I should have brought it with me to where I'm standing. It's around the corner, about 40 yards away from me, hanging in the U.S. laboratory. And Doug Hurley was a member of that last shuttle flight to bring the flag up here. Doug Hurley is also, as you know, on this SpaceX flight, and he'll bring that flag home. So he's an integral part of this capture the flag, so to speak. And I think it's a pretty cool story because the flag originated on STS-1 with John Young and Bob Crippen. So it's had quite a bit of space flight experience, this flag has.
All right. Well, we wish everybody luck. And I have to say, Commander Cassidy, as I say goodbye, as a Florida boy who grew up watching the space shuttle and the space program, it is truly an honor to talk to you.
I enjoyed my time. All the best to you guys at CBS.
Station, this is Houston ACR. That concludes the CBS portion of the event. Please stand by for a voice check from Houston Chronicle.
Station, this is the Houston Chronicle. How do you hear me?
Hello, Houston Chronicle. Is this Andrea? This is Chris. I hear you loud and clear.
Hi. Thank you for being available today. So In a news conference yesterday after landing at Kennedy Space Center, Doug said you sent him an email saying you're excited to see their ugly mugs, his words, not mine. How do you feel about them joining you for 1 to 4 months?
Well, those were my words, not his, and I did send him that email. And I'm just really excited to see him. I've enjoyed. I'm here with 2 Russian cosmonauts, and they have busy activities on the Russian side. So largely during the day, I'm by myself here on the U.S. side of the space station, and I'm really looking forward to having a couple crewmates here to help distribute the duties, but also to eat with and laugh with and joke around with. It'll be a great adventure with them.
Okay, and how's it been only having 3 crew members and distributing that workload? What's that been like?
I was describing to my good friend Aki, who's in Mission Control today, actually. I was on the phone with him and saying, that my workday is full, whether I have crewmates on the U.S. side with me or not. You can't cram any more tasks into the time that you have in a given day. But the difference is there's a certain amount of things, like at home, you have to take the trash out to the curb. You have to bring those bins back. You got to get the mail. You have to put gas in your car. And you have to unload the dishwasher. All of those things, maybe there's multiple people in your household to distribute those activities. For me, every one of those things is on me. Taking out the trash, changing the bathroom canisters and things like this. And that adds up to probably 30, 40 minutes every day, which is not a big deal. It's not a problem, but it's going to be really nice to have help to distribute those daily mundane tasks that just have to happen.
Okay, and so what's been keeping you busy the most besides those daily mundane tasks?
Well, the main purpose, as you probably know, of the space station is to conduct science and research here, and that is what we're trying to get a little bit or a lot of that, as much as we can, every single day. And I think we've been doing a pretty good job. Now, there's certain times where maintenance on the space station has to take the upper hand, because if you don't maintain the station, you don't have the system in place to conduct the science. And tomorrow's a great example. We have a coolant pump that has been finicky for the last, month or so, and it's finally on its last leg and it's died, and so it's time to replace it. So tomorrow afternoon, morning in Houston, I will dive into a panel kind of right behind where this camera is and turn some screws and unconnect some connectors, take out a bad thing and put a new thing in there, and we'll flip it back on. And that's the kind of thing that takes 4 hours. And I wouldn't say it takes away from the science, but keeping those things healthy are what enables us to do the science.
Okay, and so what are some of the tasks that Bob and Doug are going to help with? Do you have any science in mind that they will be useful for, or they'll be able to help when they get on board?
Well, I can think of lots of things that I need Bob and Doug to do, but not appropriate for the TV here. But no, I'm just joking. The workload for us is distributed between the 3 of us. There's a pile of work that has to happen every day. It's like a pie, and we just chop that pie up and we'll distribute it amongst the 3 of us. Now, that being said, they have had less ability to go to our international partners and receive training on some of those unique systems. For instance, I'm talking to you from the Japanese module. We have some training in Japan that enables us to do work and experiments here that they haven't done. Same thing with the European module. So some of those tasks will fall on me, and a lot of the American tasks will fall on Bob and Doug. And one of the big things that we have is a cargo ship called HTV, which launched yesterday, arrives on Monday, and it has a lot of cargo, and we'll have to dive in and start pulling those bags out and then filling up with trash. And I think that is going to be a lion's share of a job for mostly for the 2 of them, I think.
Okay, and for you, what's some of the science that is most exciting for you that you're working on at the moment?
I don't know if you can see, there's these 2 satellites right here called Astro B, and it's been really fun. to be part of working with these guys. They're remote controlled from the ground, and they fly around, and I helped get the initial navigation algorithms going last week, and then earlier today working with our Japanese colleagues who are going to have a student competition in the very near future with using these Astro Bees. And by the way, that's in Japan, but the control for these Astro Bees is in California, so very global in the nature of the coordination. This is one example. It's very visual and fun. There's lots of sciences happening that's behind racks that we can't see, but nonetheless equally as interesting.
Okay, and yeah, I appreciate your time today. Thank you.
You're welcome. And what's a picture from space without a little zero gravity representation there?
Station, this is Houston ACR. That concludes our event as we count down to 20 continuous years of humans living and working on the International Space Station. Thank you.
To all participants from Discovery Channel, CBS, and the Houston Chronicle. Station, we are now resuming operational audio communications.